The most extraordinary, gosh, there are three that kind of come to mind. One was very recently, I was giving a talk about overcoming fear in Soweto, in South Africa. It was not a big group of people, it was a small audience. Audience doesn't even make sense for me, like there was this field in the space and we were together. And I felt completely ridiculous to be talking about overcoming fear, sitting in with a group of people who'd lived through the violence and the sort of outrageous fear-based culture that was apartheid. And I come from Australia where, you know, I used to get afraid, I don't know, of an exam or something, but nothing life-threatening. But just sitting in that space with them. And for me, it's always about, at the beginning of a talk or a workshop or an interaction, is about kind of cleaning up myself, stepping back and saying, okay, over to you. You know, it's like I get out of the way as much as I can and just be present in the space. And I have this firm conviction that in every space something is wanting to be born, and it's a collaborative birth based on those who are in the space and the time, the intersection of everything. So I'm not very good these days at planning what I'm going to talk about or a workshop, because I think intuitively maybe I can do it, but if I can just be present, be connected here and above and within, something happens. And it was like that. For me, I didn't know it was that unique, but after I was with someone from the Indian community who'd been there with me and taken me, and she said, I can't believe it, all these people, there's not that many, you know, 12 or 15, I can't remember, all of them spoke, and they spoke about their fears. After, you know, slowly, each one started to talk after about an hour and something. And she said, but there's this white woman with them. And I said, well, really? For me, it's not like being a white woman. I'm just there present with these other beings, these other souls, and together something will happen. So for me, that's about being, I have to go into that zone. I have to not see people as their bodies, as their gender, as their culture, their race, their religion. It's just be present, be connected, be available and be patient, and not try and control the situation. And something deeply, well, something happens. Not even to impose that. Something happens. In that case, I think something very courageous and healing happened for all of us, and that ripples out into a broader field. A more recent one, a slightly more distant one, was about a year ago. And the place that I've been living is a meditation centre where we teach meditation, but other things to do with, you know, how human beings can be more, which I'm still learning a lot about. It's a Brahma Kumari's meditation centre. And we've been in a process of transformation, creating a new space over the past 7 years. And it's been a collective community journey. One of the sort of basic premise of that was we started looking, the original thing was looking for a new house or place to buy. And then the conversation became, well, what do we buy? Do we buy a place that houses who we are today? We just need an extra bedroom or a bigger classroom. Or do we think, who are we becoming? Remember that, and then find a place that houses that. Long process. We didn't move at all. We started the journey of changing the identity and culture of who we were. With, for me, the kind of faith that as we change, the physical would move around the consciousness. So we would either move to a new house, or what happened, we changed spaces. Within the house, we built sort of a new space out the back. We took the office out. So the physical environment started to move in alignment with the culture and the consciousness as it changed. And about a year ago, it was like, oh, now I felt it. Now it's time for something else to happen. And over a period of about 12 days, and we had a deadline, we had visitors arriving, this huge transformation of the physical space took place. I mean, there wasn't any construction, but everything was painted. We didn't know what we were going to do. The garden at the front, which was a sort of nothing, and was like a big jungle, no one could see us. We took out a lot of that. I had this idea, not an idea, an image. There should be quartz. There's now, I didn't know what that meant, but someone turned up and I said, I think there should be quartz. She said, I've got it. And so we now have this sort of huge sculpted garden of, thousands of kilos of quartz and days. It was like a kind of reality show, but it did itself,
Yeah.
The person who would cook every day broke her toes and couldn't come for 3 weeks at the same time. The same day someone else came in and said, who was a nurse, said, I'm taking holidays, I just can't stand anymore for 3 weeks, if you need me help. And it was just this thing that happened. And one of the interesting things for me, that there was someone who is a landscape designer who'd studied that, who offered to help with the garden. But Santiago is it's a desert, a more desert type environment. And she was showing me all these pictures of English gardens, and I just couldn't get my head around it. But I'm not a designer, and I didn't pretend I would know, but it just didn't seem right. But one of the things that happened in this 12 days, I saw it was happening. The matter, it was time for the matter to do its own movement. And I just got the opportunity to kind of participate, to be present and maybe kind of midwife something. So I didn't know what it was going to look like, and I didn't have any preconceived ideas. I didn't even know it was going to happen. I didn't know what colour we should paint. And someone said, why don't you hire me to do the feng shui? I went, oh, great idea. He did it. And then that started to move everything. And then we had at least 10 or 12 people every day in the house working and for lunch. And people asking me, I've never done anything like this in my life, coming and asking me the answers to certain questions. And the only way that I could participate, my participation in this, was I had to be present. I had to be 100% present, without expectations, without ideas of my own, without ego, which is never easy, but the presence was the key. And what I found was that every interaction I had to be 100% present with that person about that thing. And there was often people sort of hanging around to ask something else, or something going on over in another corner. And I couldn't allow myself to go out from this moment. If I had to, I would say, excuse me, could you just wait one moment? I want to give, full attention, but there's something here that needs to be addressed. And I would do that, finish that, and then come back here. And what I sort of understood in retrospect was that there was a cleanliness that was taking place. That every interaction was closed. There weren't any tails sort of left behind, any feeling type tales where someone felt they weren't heard, or I didn't listen properly and I didn't understand, therefore there was a wrong decision, or I took a decision when it wasn't for me to take the decision. And it was something remarkable because I didn't know what would happen, how it would happen, and I never once said no to anything. And it really was a total transformation, no budget. We work on voluntary contributions, and people just came, and money just came, and the right people. And this lovely, lovely woman who offered to help with the design but was showing me all these pictures from England, she called, she said, "I'm so sorry, I can't continue. My dog's just died and we have to take him to the country with the family." And I went, "Wow, that's interesting, sorry about the dog dying," but
Yeah.
I didn't say anything to her. But I thought, I didn't have to say no. The next day, it didn't feel right, but there was no rejecting of anything. It was like just allowing what wanted to be born to have its way. And, within about, I can't remember exactly, but maybe 20 minutes, the next person arrived at the door and said, "Wow, what's going on?" And I said, something's happening, the energy's moving, we're renovating, painting, so we're going to do something to the garden, I think quartz. And she said, "Why not this and this? Great, let's go." And I said, "We've only got 10 days. She said, "We don't need 10 days. We changed the shape of the, dug up all the blue stone, changed the shape of the path, brought in thousands and thousands of kilos of quartz and created this sort of iconic space, opened up the whole front. People who'd never seen the house before saw it, started asking, "Do you teach meditation here?" We had no signage, nothing. And people just started walking in going, "Wow, this is so different." Beautiful, really beautiful. And it's still kind of unfolding. But for me, the zone thing was, it's like in everything there is a blueprint of a perfect order that is sitting in a subtle world, before manifestation. And I feel more and more over the years, as I've been able to let go of this idea that I have to have the idea, or my creativity needs to express itself, or all this sort of my and I, that I can just align to the source, align from inside up, and watch this thing as it unfolds into form, and do the part that I'm supposed to do. And that takes stillness. I can't know what is my part if I'm thinking, if I'm busy, if I'm proving, if I'm, needing something. So I have to look after very well. I have to look after my own state of being, my own inner world, and be conscious and aware. And I think I have to be surrendered to this idea for a start, and available, ready at any moment to step up. Whatever, something happens, I can't, excuse me, sorry universe, I've just got something else pending, which, is really important. No, I have to be ready at any minute to do my part, whatever that is. Tiny, bigger, available, and I have to know, what's a furphy, what's something that is illusory, that is the ego playing its thing out.
How do you know?
Gosh, that's not so easy. I find that challenging. I find that challenging because the ego is very clever at its thing, you know, which is to survive and make itself important and make you believe that. Someone asked me that the other day around something that's happening at the moment. I go, oh, should I, shouldn't I? Is that right, what I should be doing? And it's about listening honestly. You know, and for me, if I get a hint of like something inside me that goes, you know, a little bit of excitement that I'm going to get something from it. If I feel this feeling of I'm going to get something, I know it's not the universe calling me up. Because invariably, when I participate in something that's unfolding, that's being born, it's a glorious experience. But it's not like I'm going to get something. It's different from where the ego feels satisfied that, oh, they're finally going to know, or they'll see, or, you know, those sorts of thoughts. Oh, it's grace. You know, it's a privilege. It's a deep, joyous privilege to participate in something glorious that is arriving. And it can be a small task. It doesn't have to be anything grand, but it has a different feeling about it. And there's such, like in this situation with the house, and it's a public environment, so it's service. It's not like, oh great, now my house, it's like the block. No, it's a space that is of service, kind of lighthouse, you know. And it did itself around the consciousness that had been gifted from dedicated people. But the feeling is joy, and the sense you can't think, I did this. There's no feeling that you can own it. It's much, the energy of it is much bigger. It's like it expands everyone into a new possibility of the way of being together. And that's its gift. The outcome, you can feel it. You can see it. You can feel it. It has a different energy about it. And then what plays out in that as a result of that is new. But it's a privilege. And it's humbling. Yeah. It's humbling because you could never... there's no way I could have done that, and I would have been panicked, and I would have thought there's not enough time, and I would have said, no, that doesn't work, or what are you joking, you know, that's not... It would have been full of control, you know, control and fear, and, well, they're the same thing really, but it would have been full of that. And so, to me, it's that stillness and presence and trust, surrender.
Yeah.
Relief, like ease. It's so... It was relentless in some ways. It's different from the thing in Soweto, and I've had lots of other kind of contexted experiences in different ways. When my husband died, that was totally in the zone, you know. So it's a different thing again, but the experience is that it's so easy. And it's filled with beauty. You know, that people would maybe call that grace, but not but. It is that. And for me, it's sort of the great beauty presents itself, you know, and it's awe-inspiring. It's to live, you know, as I say it, you go, I want to live there more, you know. but it is that. It is that. It's an ease, it's grace, it's a flow. There's a harmony. Even when you think it's too much, it's not possible. But in fact, you don't think that. Yeah. Because you're in it, and it's undoing, it's unraveling, and it is possible because it's happening. It's only if you step out of it and think that not possible. But that's just a thought, it's a conditioned idea. Anything is possible because it's not you, it's not the smallness of your own conditioned egoic self. There is a whole vast system that is to play this game. And so, it just would make us all more content, more at ease, trusting, don't need to prove anything or be anything other than just happy, ready, waiting. Before I knew about this word or even the sort of idea or concept, maybe I heard that, but I come from a theatre background originally, well, different things, but that's one of them. And I remember reading a book by the guy who developed theatre sports. And he is a director and an acting teacher. And I don't remember anything else in this book except one line, and he was talking about improvisation, and that in improvisation you must listen in order to be changed. And that struck me. And in a lot of work that I did in the late 90s around organisational change, and we would work with people and say, in their coaching or their conversations they needed to have with people, if they were afraid, don't talk, just be quiet and listen. And we would help them to practice what is listening. Usually we're not listening, we're waiting for people to stop talking before, so we can say what we want to say, or we're planning what we're going to say next. But to actually trust that what is being said in this moment is what needs to be heard, and that it should impact me in such a way that I'm moved, I'm different after it's said. So I started to practice that. And what I found was it helped me be very still in my mind. If ideas or things I wanted to say came in, I'd go, just trust, if it's important for the whole, it will come back. And sometimes it was a killer because someone else would say it, and I go, oh, that wasn't my idea, I feel this sort of ego thing going on where it's mine.
I want the credit for that.
I'm the source of all. And it was really a struggle, the whole thing was a struggle with ego, and observing myself without judgment. I've learned that over time too, to be kind and non-judgmental and accepting. But it was incredibly helpful, and to this day I find really listening takes me to that still presence. And for me it's listening to others, but there's also something about listening, like I've said, into the space. I think, every space, every moment in time wants to say something. Now, it's not going to speak necessarily, but symbols emerge, or synchronicities, or indications, or signals, or something is wanting to be happening. Am I listening? And for me, listening is another way of saying present. And it's an active thing. I can practice that in small steps, rather than just, I'm present. What is that?
Yeah.
But as I start to listen more, and listening starts to happen multisensorial. It's not just through my ears. My intuition becomes alive. I feel things. I see. So it's listening's a way of saying that awareness, really. But it's an active starting point, which is I listen to what you're saying, and I really let it enter into me, and it does something to me. So it can wake up something, it can reinforce something, it can open me up. I let it do what it's there to do. And then I know if I need to do something in response. And if not, I have to have the courage to stay listening, stay quiet. That's it. So for me, presence is that, and patience is a big thing.
Thank you.